it's Auntie G. Welcome to my channel. I love to thrift, make, and style, and today I'd like to share a make with you. I thought that it would be really cool to upcycle a pair of chinos with the Carhartt shaped patch. So I can show you how I made the pattern. So I made a pattern for it, did the dimensions and how we attached it, some tricks and hints, and I also added pockets to these, and the hem had to be done. But your pants that you use to upcycle and add this Carhartt detailing to may not need the kinds of repairs I did. And I also started doing a new thing where I like to put a little tie and it just hangs down the back for a little bit of interest. I think that makes the pants kind of cool. So these are a size 14 Cold Water Creek 100% cotton. And the first thing I did, of course, is I opened them up at the crotch so that I could access everything really easy, because it's a nice, easy sew when they're done. And if the rise isn't large enough in a pair of pants, it's really easy to put the piece of fabric in there. So I'm ready to show you what I've done. I mean, I'm not that clever and I'm not that good, but I usually figure it out, and the things turn out and the things are sold in the store. I'm not an online store. I'm a physical store that's only open from May until September every year, and it's in a really isolated community. So I basically just sell the things that I've made all winter, which gives me space to be able to make more and do some tutorials. It's how I keep myself entertained now that I'm retired. So yeah, let's get started, and we'll go onto the table now so that you can see what we're up to and what's next. Okay, let's just switch down. Okay, so we've opened up the pants, and this is a picture of the pattern that I made. It is rounded, and it wasn't fancy to do. I could have done my French curl, but I couldn't find it at the time. So I just grabbed a plastic container from the kitchen. So I just grabbed a plastic container from the kitchen and used it. So that was fine. I figured out that this was, how long was that? Oh, 18 inches. And then the curve. So this is what we cut out. And this is the pattern. And you mark the inside. So this is the inside, which means that my seams are going to fold in this way against the seam. I am turning the edges here, so you'll see on the finished side that for this pair, now I'll leave them rough occasionally, but I wanted to make these ones finished. So they all have a finished edge and this curve and this. So that turned out pretty good. I mean, I'm no sewer, but I did that with a little bit of trim. The next thing to do is actually, the first thing I'm going to do is sew this curve on. I don't do anything fancy for here. I will just take a scrap of fabric and I'll kind of turn it on the bias where it's got a little bit more stretch and give, and I just plop it down. And I don't use pins. I like to use painter's tape. So the painter's tape is easy to remove. You can pull it as you sew, and that keeps everything nice and secure as you're sewing. Okay, so we're gonna go to the sewing machine and sew this. Then we're gonna go to the ironing board and iron it in place, and then we're ready to attach it to the pants. It's just that fast. So a 1/4 inch from the edge, then cut, and you're ready to iron. So give it a press. You can use steam or not. And once it's pressed, then flip it over and press it again so that you end up with a nice crisp sew line. So you're going to sew right at that edge. After it's pressed, just trim away any little extra bits that are showing. Grab some scissors and trim close to the edge because you're going to be sewing over top of it, so it won't really matter how much is trimmed off, and just trim the edges, trim the sides, and trim against the curve. I was really happy when I found this method. It seemed really complicated, but this way is quite easy. It's very similar to using a piece of paper in my mind. And then we're going to take the iron and give ourselves some nice crisp edges to sew up against to make everything really quite easy at sewing machine. Again, I like to use masking tape to hold down my edges. I just think they don't shift around as much as pins. Once all the edges are ironed and you have it secured, go ahead and trim off the 2 bottom corners. This will make a crisper edge. All right, our edges are pressed under. Now we're going to take the panel and attach it to the pants. The next step we're going to do is we're going to attach these with the tape again, maybe a couple of pins, I don't know, to the pants themselves. And we'll be able to match the side without the piece because this piece is done, so the other side will match. So we're going to go to the table and I'll show you how I do that, and then back to the sewing machine for the next step. Just take your time and straighten the pants out, line the piece that you want to sew on, do measure, because you can use the side that's already done to measure the second side. And that, to me, I just find that a lot easier to do. And then just secure it all in place. The more secure it is before you go to the sewing machine, the greater chance you have of actually getting it to sew perfectly in place. Give the pants a nice tug, straighten them out, just like measure, making sure everything is in place and straight, because we're just going to go straight to the sewing machine. So we got one chance without unpicking. Oh, now the stitch I like to use for this, it's what do you call it? Hemming stitch. So it goes 1, 2, 3 up, back down, 1, 2, 3 up, back down. So I figure that's a nicer looking stitch for me because I don't have to be a perfect sewer. See how it zigzags around? Okay, so the next step is we're going to sew that in place. So let the fun begin. You just line up with your presser foot and you peel away the masking tape as you sew. I like to use a seam ripper to feed the fabric in under the feed dogs. In order to help everything line up, I like to use my left hand to slightly push the top fabric to allow it to line up with the rest. It's kind of like petting a little cat. You just push a little bit and everything just purrs in nicely. Well, that's pretty good. That worked out pretty smoothly. So we've got the Carhartt panel attached to the front of the chinos. So that basically is how you do it. So the next steps we have is maybe add a little flourish, a little fun. And of course, I've got to do the hem. I'll give you a little show of how I do the hem, but it's really the Carhartt panel that is, I think, unique. I've seen it a couple of times, but I couldn't find a YouTube video, so I thought I would share one with you. So let's get things hemmed, and then we can play with I'm only going to do 2 patches and just of the one fabric, because I can actually go quite crazy with the patches, and I wanted to kind of keep these ones in a kind of a simple color palette. I don't know why. But let's get the hems fixed, and then we can sew on the patches and then sew up the middle. Kind of crazy when you can rip it better than your stupid seam rippers. I've got more on order, but yeah, that's not good. So those turned out really good. The fronts are done. The hem's done. So now it's time to plan what we're going to do for a little extra fun on that side that's not done yet. It's back to the table. So I have this piece of fabric, which we used at the bottom of the hem. I've got this piece of lace, some more of this fabric, and of course some of the donor gray. So for this side I did a patch kind of near the bottom. And these are the back pockets, of course, and keeping that all in mind when I'm planning where the embellishments might go on this side. And I don't want to repeat what I did on the first side, but I do want to add a few elements. I'm not against hand stitching up here inside the pocket because I don't want to lose the pocket. But I think I would like to bring in a patch of the blue fabric, but I'm just trying to decide on shape and size. And of course I'm going to turn the edges on this one so I don't actually have to cut out an applique piece, so we can kind of play around and get some shapes going. And then maybe just two of them. That looks great. I think we have our final placement. So let's get these sewed on before I change my mind and go into creativity paralysis. So I've got the patches ironed on and ready to sew, but I just wanted to give you one more hint. So when you're doing these boho type patches, it's a super great idea not to start right at a corner, but to start slightly down, because if things shift, it's a lot easier to do an adjustment at this part of the patch versus right at the corner. So always start your sewing somewhere in the middle of a length or the middle of a flower, and always kind of aim to be perfect around the top and the sides where you can kind of shift things on the parts. So let's get these sewn on. So when I come to where the patches are overlapped, I just kind of go around in a big circle. I don't do the bottom patch and then the top patch. I just kind of do them all at once, and that's what I just showed you. Yay, done. So before you actually sew the pants together, I like to finish the raw edges, and you can zigzag the raw edges or turn and straight stitch. I decided that when I get to the crotch, so this is the crotch of the pants, I switched from doing a fold to just doing a zigzag because of the bulk. So now I am ready to sew I like to sew about 10 inches from either side of the crotch so that the shifting doesn't happen there. Then I go to the bottoms of the pants and I go up about 10, and then I do my adjusting in the middle, like around the knee. And so that's what I'm gonna do now. As you turn your pants inside out, and we're gonna line the crotches up perfectly. And this is where I will use some clips. Now where I'm going to sew is that is the original line from unpicking the seam, and I'm going to go just down from it, just a smidge, to cover up the stitching. And I'm going to start at the middle and go down, turn around, and go back the other way. And just a straight stitch. See, we're enclosed. All right, now for the bottoms. See, now I've got it attached here in the sewing machine. Got my hand on the other piece, and I'm now going to be able to pull them and make sure they're lining up correctly. And if there's any ease to happen, I can ease it without impacting the crotch. This is actually my favorite part because you're so close to being done. Now what I'm doing here is I'm pushing the top fabric forward slightly to make up for the little extra pull for the feed dogs. So you just give it a little push as you go. Now I am going to join this hem. I'm going to trim, zigzag, then sew it together. So now I'm going to give this raw edge some zigzagging. So there. So now the two edges are kind of protected. There's not as many layers. So we're just going to give it a sew together with the regular seam allowance. Straight stitch. And hope I don't break a needle, because I haven't broken a needle yet in this one. Looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take and cut again on an angle. Turn it towards the back and lay it down. So I'm just going to put a small stitch right across the top to hold the hem down. I could stitch in the ditch, I think. No, I'm going to go across the bottom. There we go. I'll show you what I did on the other side, because I didn't cut enough material, but I actually buried that seam under the flower. So we'll see how that looks. Maybe I'll do the flower on this side too, but I don't want them to be too matchy. Okay, guess what time it is? It's time for a reveal. Finished. I'm just going to give them a press. We can call this tutorial a wrap. That a tutorial for these pants has been helpful. I kind of like the little Carhartt thing, and this string pulls to make them tighter so they can fit. And yeah, that's it. That's the reveal. And that's the end of the tutorial. So it's not a longer little talk, but it's cold out here, and it's almost nighttime. So you have a good day, and pop me a like, a follow, a subscriber, whatever you want. And this is the doodad cap. It's, I think, day 23. So yeah, anyway, Auntie G out.